Hello folks, welcome back. This video is about a particularly disturbing development which I've noticed growing across the United States as more and more South African refugees arrive here. And I can only wonder how long it's been prevalent amongst the people responsible for this. Now, I must say that the stereotype of people working for these organizations provide refugee services are of a leftist do-gooder who is out to change the world and change America. Now, that may be unfair, but we're finding more and more instances of this actually being the case. The Hatch Act of 1939 prevents federal employees from campaigning or promoting politics in the workplace and can be used to prosecute someone for doing such a thing. So federal employees and those places where you receive government services are not allowed to do that. Now, by the same standard, it's inappropriate for a refugee assistance agency to interject politics into conversations with refugees. Now, I've already seen this. Seen evidence of it, heard voice notes. Yep. I have also had interviews with multiple refugees in places like California, in Colorado, and in Rochester, New York, among other places. Those three just stand out, where refugee case officers are disdainful of the U.S. government, disdainful of President Trump, and lying to refugees about the benefits and services available to them. I just listened to a voice note from one state in particular where a case officer was friendly with the incoming refugee, nonetheless lied and said that the United States is a terrible place. It's a disaster because of President Trump. Well, their GDP growing at a astounding 5% plus, which is shocking for a $34 trillion economy, with unemployment hovering around 4%, with government deficits declining, with revenue to the federal government growing, and with 13 million jobs unfilled in this country. I'm not really sure what is wrong with the country, except that it doesn't match this person's personal political beliefs, which of course aren't germane and have nothing to do with providing refugee assistance. This is unacceptable. This is morally bankrupt, and I don't know if there's a specific law that prevents it, but I'm going to research it with some attorneys and find out if, in fact, these people are committing crimes. They're certainly morally repulsive by doing this. If you're a pro-Obama fan, no one should know that. No one that you provide refugee assistance to should know whether you're a conservative or a leftist or a Democrat or Republican or libertarian. It's nobody's business. It should have no impact on the service you provide. You should provide the same service to every refugee regardless of their origin, regardless of their faith. But I've ran into situations, for instance, like in Rochester, where a case officer told a Muslim when he asked where he could buy halal food, the case officer told the refugee, "You people eat dogs. Why do you need that?" Yes. True statement, folks. True statement. I've also heard lots of disdainful comments out of Rochester and out of California and elsewhere about President Trump, about how, you people aren't even supposed to be here. Seriously? This is who these agencies put forward. Now, what's especially shocking about this and disturbing is that many of these agencies are faith-based, Jewish, Christian, Ethiopian organizations that are there to help people. But they're hiring people who are paid a lot of money in many cases to be disparaging, disdainful, disrespectful, rude, bigoted, and racist against refugees. Now, this is only coming to light because of all the South Africans coming over. Unlike refugees from most of the world, the South Africans speak English for the most part and speak it relatively well, if not extremely well. So the South Africans are often better educated, better informed, and come from a society that hasn't completely collapsed because it's in-country refugee status, not Somalis fleeing from Somalia to Kenya living in a camp for years, growing with abysmal living standards and abysmal education standards. No, these are people who are coming over suffering from racial persecution. That's why they're here. So they are a little better informed than many other refugees. Also, they know their rights. Also, many of them listen to my programs. They know that if they're treated poorly, someone's going to pay attention. And quite frankly, this needs to stop. This is a disturbing trend. A refugee case officer telling a refugee that the benefits have been reduced by Trump. That's a lie. A piece of legislation, the Big Beautiful Bill, did reduce and eliminate SNAP or food stamps for refugees. And that isn't even true either. That's what the law apparently says. But it was supposed to stop 1 October. Some people continued. Others have begun since January when it was supposed to stop again. And they're still getting SNAP benefits. In the same town, some refugees are getting it from one agency. They would help them go apply for it. Others aren't getting it. So who knows what the real status of that is. But the bottom line is that the implication that the case officer made in this voice note, which I won't air for now, but in this voice note indicates that Trump has lowered the benefits. But the reality is that these benefits that South Africans and Afghans and Burmese and Congolese and Kyrgyz are entitled to under the law are legislated. The law is what determines what they get, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't say you don't get benefits. Congress passed a law that says benefits curtailed. They get passed. Right now, Rand Paul is trying to get legislation to eliminate all cash benefits, all assistance to refugees, which is, look, I mean, if we're going to have refugees, that's an asinine proposition. I'm not in favor or against refugees. I'm agnostic on the situation. But saying they come here and start with nothing, what are they supposed to live in FEMA tents? Ha ha ha. There's a good joke for the South African crowd. Yes, this is ridiculous and it's unacceptable. This needs to stop. It needs to stop. I will begin contacting federal authorities every time a person makes me aware of a case officer who has interjected politics into the conversation with refugees. So you better button your lips. You better tie your tongue down. You better stop wagging your tongue and try to influence refugees, whether they're Afghans or Burmese or Congolese or Moroccans or South Africans. And that's not a threat. That's a promise. Your job is not to use your personal political beliefs to influence this. My personal political beliefs, we would have virtually no asylum seekers in this country because the program is fraudulent. It's been abused by millions of people who have no business being here. Economic refugees. They're not economic refugees. They're economic migrants. Illegal economic migrants falsely using asylum to get in this country. I would virtually eliminate the asylum program. Only a handful of people would be eligible for it. So my personal political beliefs have no role in influencing refugees, and neither do theirs. So enough. Keep it up, and you'll make yourself famous. Simple as that. Simple as that. All right, folks, what say you? South Africa? Congo, what do you say? I know people are upset there because they're not coming over anymore, but many Congolese are already in the country. What do you say? Are you tired of being treated like crap by your case officer? Most, I should make it clear, most case officers and most of these agencies do a fine job fulfilling their responsibility and dispersing cash and services to these refugees. Most. But the growing number of people, even if they're delivering that service, who interject their political beliefs is wrong and must end. Cheers.